All right, so many of you have been requesting a deep dive into the Oba Chandler case.
Oh, yeah.
And this one is going to be a tough one, folks.
Definitely a dark one.
We're going to be looking at pulling out some of the details of this case from a document all about Chandler.
Yeah.
He was a convicted serial killer, as you know.
Yeah.
And this all happened in 1989, sunny Tampa Bay, Florida.
Beautiful part of the country.
The Rogers family, Joan and her two daughters, Michelle and Christy,
Right.
they were on vacation from Ohio, just looking for some fun in the sun.
Who would have thought?
But, yeah, it
It all went very wrong.
definitely took a dark turn.
Yeah. And this case fascinates me because it went unsolved for years.
Oh, wow.
The way they caught Chandler was remarkable.
Really?
It was a tactic that really hadn't been used before, and it really captivated the public.
So the family just vanished, huh?
Yeah, just poof, gone.
Their car turned up abandoned on the Courtney Campbell Causeway.
Yeah, at a boat dock.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine back in Ohio?
Oh, my gosh, the family must have been frantic.
A parent's worst nightmare.
So then what happened?
So a few days later, their bodies were found floating in Tampa Bay.
Oh, my gosh.
June 4th, 1989. Bound, naked from the waist down, with concrete blocks around their necks.
Oh, God.
Autopsies showed that they were alive when they were thrown into the water.
It's just horrific.
It's absolutely awful. Thinking about a family vacation ending like that,
What kind of person could do something like this?
well, that's a question that haunted investigators for years. But there was a clue. The
Oh.
tiny little clue. There was a tourist pamphlet in the Rogers car,
Okay.
and it had handwriting on it, directions.
Handwritten directions, that's it.
That's it.
That doesn't sound like much to go off of.
Well, you would think that, but those directions became the key to the whole case.
Real?
The police took a really radical step.
Okay.
They put pictures of the handwriting on billboards all over Tampa Bay.
What?
Do you imagine that on your commute every day?
The handwriting of a killer on a billboard?
Yeah, basically.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
It was 1989, so no internet or anything. It was a huge gamble.
Do you think that would even work today?
Well, it was definitely groundbreaking. It sparked a lot of debate
I bet.
about privacy versus public safety.
Yeah.
Today, with the internet and social media and all the surveillance,
Right.
I think it would be even more controversial.
Yeah, for sure.
But back then, it was a shot in the dark, and it worked.
Someone recognized it.
They did. Chandler's former neighbor saw the billboard
Oh, wow.
and recognized the handwriting immediately, like something out of a TV show.
That's crazy.
That little detail cracked the case wide open. So the neighbor went straight to the police.
And they had their guy?
Yep, Oba Chandler.
So who was he?
Did he have a record?
Yeah, was he a career criminal?
Well, he had a history of petty crimes,
Okay.
but nothing even close to murder.
Really?
He was an aluminum siding contractor, unlicensed, by the way.
Hmm.
And get this, against his lawyer's advice, he decided to testify.
Oh, no, that's usually not a good sign.
You're telling me?
What was his defense?
Well, he tried to downplay any connection with the Rogers family.
Okay.
Claimed he just gave him directions, never saw them again.
Hmm.
Said he was out fishing alone that night on his boat.
Oh, so he had a boat.
Yeah, a bayliner.
Did they believe that?
Well, he said his engine had problems, that's why he was out so late.
Convenient.
Right. But the police didn't buy it for a second.
Really?
They started looking into it and pulled records of ship-to-shore calls he made.
From his boat.
Uh-huh. And those calls lined up perfectly with the time frame of the murders.
Oh, no.
Then it got worse. His whole engine trouble story fell apart.
What happened?
Well, the prosecution brought in a butt mechanic
Okay.
who testified that Chandler's explanation of how he fixed the engine was completely bogus.
Really?
Plus, there were no distress calls to the Coast Guard or the Florida Marine Patrol.
As he had claimed.
Exactly. His alibi was sinking fast.
Wow, so his story's starting to unravel.
Yep.
But what other evidence did they have?
Well, besides the handwriting and the bogus alibi,
Yeah.
there was another witness, a key witness in the case.
Oh, really?
And her story is very disturbing.
Oh, okay.
Her name is Judy Blair, and she came forward.
What did she say?
Well, she testified that Chandler, using the surname Dave Posner, lured her onto his boat and then raped her.
This is awful.
It is. She was able to give the police a description of him in his boat.
And it matched.
Perfectly.
Oh, my goodness.
It must have been so difficult for her to relive that in court.
Absolutely.
But her testimony was so important.
It really puts things into perspective.
Yeah. It showed a pattern of behavior that was very similar to what happened to the Rogers family.
It's terrifying to think about.
And her story wasn't the only shocking testimony in the trial.
Oh, what else happened?
Chandler's own daughter, Crystal Sue Mays, testified against him.
What? His own daughter?
She told the court that her father had confessed to killing 3 women.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
Testifying against your own parent in a murder trial.
I mean, I remember you said that Chandler was a contractor.
Yeah.
Was there any connection there?
You're good.
Uh-huh.
Judy Blair said that Chandler had told her he was an aluminum siding contractor.
Right.
So that little detail led investigators to actually codename the case Operation Tin Man.
Operation Tin Man, that's chilling.
It is.
So was he using his job to target victims?
It's definitely possible. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
He had a reason to be in people's homes.
Gain their trust.
Exactly. It's a reminder that these kinds of predators can hide in plain sight
It's a scary thought.
and, use ordinary jobs to mask their real intentions.
So with all this evidence against him,
You would think he wouldn't stand a chance.
the handwriting, the phone records, Judy Blair, his own daughter.
Right.
Was there any way he was getting away with this?
Well, it wasn't looking good for him,
Yeah.
but there's still more to this story.
What do you mean?
We haven't even talked about the twist that came out years after his conviction.
There's more. Oh my gosh.
Buckle up.
This deep dive is intense.
Yeah, it's a wild one.
I won't be forgetting this one anytime soon.
Me neither. This is one for the books.
We'll have to pick this up in part 2.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's amazing how just one little thing, like saying he's a contractor, can blow a whole case wide open.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Makes you realize, how important it is to look at every detail.
The devil's in the details, as they say.
Exactly.
So Chandler went to trial in November 1994, right?
Right.
What happened? Was he found guilty?
Oh, yeah. The jury didn't buy any of it.
Mm.
He was found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder.
Wow.
The judge sentenced him to death.
So then what?
Well, Chandler always said he was innocent.
Even after being sentenced to death?
Oh, yeah. He spent 17 years on death row
Wow. Where was that at?
at Union Correctional Institution in Florida.
Did he try to appeal or anything?
Oh, yeah. He filed a bunch of appeals, tried to overturn the conviction.
Did any of them work?
Not a single one.
Oh, wow.
And get this. During those 17 years, not one single person visited him.
Really?
Not one.
That's so sad. What about his family?
Well, his daughters, they had really conflicting feelings about the whole thing.
What do you mean?
Valerie, one of his daughters, she truly believed he was innocent.
Really? Even after he was convicted?
She even wrote to the governor asking for clemency.
So one daughter thought he was innocent. What about the others?
Well, his other daughter, Suzette, she had a completely different take.
What did she say?
She called her father a monster, said he got what he deserved.
Wow. 2 daughters, completely different views of their father.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
So what happened to Chandler in the end?
Well, after years of appeals and legal battles, Oba Chandler was executed.
When was that?
November 15th, 2011, by lethal injection.
And he still maintained his innocence.
Until the very end. In his last statement, he wrote, "You are killing an innocent man today."
That sends chills down my spine.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
What was going through his mind?
Right. Did he really believe it, or was he just trying to hold on to something
Yeah.
to have some control, some dignity? I don't know.
It's hard to say.
And, the story doesn't end there.
Really? I thought we were just about wrapped up.
Not quite.
What is it?
Years after his execution, DNA evidence linked Chandler to another cold case.
You kidding me? Even after he died, they were still finding things.
I know. Crazy,
What
right?
was the case?
The rape and murder of Ivelis Berrios Begaris in Coral Springs, Florida.
Oh my gosh, another murder.
It had gone unsolved for years.
This is insane. So tell me about her case. When did this all happen?
Well, Ivelis disappeared on November 27th, 1990.
Okay.
Almost exactly a year after the Rogers murders. She was last seen at Sawgrass Mills Mall,
Okay.
where she worked, and her car was found a few hours later.
What happened to her car?
The tires were slashed, and her body was found later under a mailbox.
Another brutal murder.
It's hard to believe someone could do this, let alone multiple times.
So how did they connect Chandler to her case?
Well, years after he was executed, investigators were reviewing cold cases.
Oh, okay.
They decided to take another look at the evidence. Technology had advanced, so they decided to run some DNA tests.
And what? It was a match.
It was confirmation that Chandler was responsible for even more.
So the Rogers family wasn't his only victims.
It's terrifying to think there might be even more out there.
I can't imagine.
We might never know.
This is just this case is wild.
Absolutely.
It must have been all over the media.
Oh, yeah, the Rogers case, the billboards, the trial, It captivated the nation.
That makes sense.
The newspapers, the true crime shows, it was everywhere.
What about books or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, there was this Pulitzer Prize-winning series called Angels and Demons
Angels and Demons? I think I've heard of that.
by Thomas French, all about the Rogers case.
Wow, this case really had a huge impact.
And it wasn't just the true crime world. It actually affected other trials, too.
Really?
Because of all the media coverage, it made it hard to find juries.
Who hadn't already heard about Chandler?
Exactly. For other big cases, too, not just his.
Wow, I didn't realize one case could have such a huge impact.
Well, this case brings up a lot of big questions.
About evil and justice.
Right. Not easy topics to talk about.
No, they're not, but they're important.
Yeah, you're right. It goes way beyond just the facts of the case.
It makes you think about the world and ourselves.
It does. And, maybe that's the point.
What do you mean?
Maybe by looking into these dark corners of humanity, we can learn something.
About ourselves.
Yeah, and about the world.
That's a really interesting thought.
And maybe understand what drives some people to do these horrible things.
Yeah, maybe we should dig into those questions a little more.
Definitely.
This deep dive is intense. I'm learning a lot, though.
Me too. It's a fascinating case, but very disturbing.
So we've really gone deep into this case, the Oba Chandler case.
It's a tough one.
It is. From the Rogers family to Evelis Barrios Bigaris.
Right.
It really shows you, the dark side of humanity.
It does.
But let's maybe look at some of the bigger questions
Okay, yeah.
this case brings up,
Like what?
like the nature of evil,
Right.
redemption, and, its justice.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of hard to talk about these things, but I think it's important.
Definitely. I think what really gets me about Chandler's case
Yeah.
is that it makes you think about nature versus nurture.
Right.
I mean, was this guy born evil,
Right.
or did something happen, to make him this way?
Like his past.
Yeah, I mean, his father committed suicide when he was only 10.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Did that plant some kind of seed,
That's a question people have been asking forever.
Really?
Can you really tell where evil comes from?
Right.
Are we born with it, or is it something we learn?
Exactly.
Well, Chandler had a history of crime,
Yeah, he did.
starting as a teenager, like petty stuff.
Uh,
But could that have been like a sign of what was to come?
it's definitely possible. Trauma, especially as a kid,
Yeah.
can mess you up, but,
You can't just blame everything on that.
exactly. Correlation doesn't equal causation.
Right.
Plenty of people have terrible childhoods, and they turn out fine.
They do.
So you can't just write him off as evil because of his past.
Right.
It's complicated.
Yeah, very complicated.
And that's what's so fascinating about this case.
Yeah.
It's disturbing, but we try to understand,
His motivations
right, what made him tick, but we're still left with this question of evil.
and what it is.
Exactly.
And will we ever really know? I don't know.
I don't know either. It's a scary thought that we may never fully get it.
So do you think someone like Chandler could ever be redeemed?
I mean, this guy committed such brutal crimes.
I know.
Could he ever feel real remorse?
Yeah. Could he ever change?
We may never know the answer to that.
I mean, he said he was innocent right up to the end.
He did. In his last statement, he said, "You are killing an innocent man today."
It's hard to think of that as remorse.
Yeah, but you got to remember,
He was about to be executed.
yeah, he was facing his death.
Maybe that was just a last attempt to,
To hold on.
yeah, to some dignity.
It's possible.
Or maybe it was a sliver of, I don't know.
Remorse.
Yeah.
Maybe too little, too late. But
It's hard to say.
yeah.
It's a question that everyone has to answer for themselves, I guess.
Yeah, there's no right answer when it comes to redemption.
But there's one thing I think we can all agree on,
What's that?
that we need to keep searching for the truth
Yeah.
and fighting for justice no matter what.
You're absolutely right. And the investigators in this case,
Yep.
they never gave up.
They didn't.
They were determined to get justice for the victims, for all of them.
Yeah, Joan, Michelle, Christ.
And aidless.
They kept digging for evidence and following every lead.
It's inspiring to see that level of commitment
It is.
to getting it right, to not giving up.
And they were able to hold Chandler responsible.
They were, and,
That's because they didn't give up?
technology played a part too.
Oh, yeah, like what?
DNA testing, that's how they got him on Ivelis's case.
It's amazing how far we've come.
It is, that we can solve crimes even years later.
It gives me hope,
Me too.
that even in the darkest times, justice can prevail.
It can.
It makes you think, about the good and bad in people,
It does.
the mysteries we may never solve.
At the end of the day, it's about fighting for justice.
For those who can't fight for themselves.
You got it.
Well, this has been quite a journey, this deep dive.
It has.
The Oba Chandler case is, well, it's unsettling.
It makes you question a lot of things.
It does, about who we are, what drives
And
us,
how we can prevent this from happening again.
and how we can make the world a better place.
Yeah, one where justice is served.
That's what I want to leave everyone with as we finish up this deep dive.
Yeah.
Think about what you've learned from this case, about the potential for good and evil.
We all have that inside us.
We do.
It's about making the right choices.
It is. And fighting for what's right no matter what.
I agree.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.